How's it going, everybody? This is Jay Leno. I am here with my good friends Spencer and Mike. With what's the name of you guys' podcast again?
Ninja Turtle Power Hour.
Ninja Turtle Power Hour. And I'm gonna put the link up right now. Let's see here. Boom. Okay, I'm gonna. I guess we're gonna start with the beginning with you guys. So how'd you guys start off?
So for me, I don't know, probably about 8 or so years old when I started watching the 2003 show on Saturday mornings. And so I watched that for years and years and years until I saw Turtles Forever and learned that there were comic books, and I've just done a deep dive and have been super into Ninja Turtles ever since.
Nice, nice. How about yourself, Mike?
So I have been in with the franchise for almost 40 years. In fact, the comic is just 1 year older than me, almost exactly. So I'm just one of those born and bred Ninja Turtles guys that's just been around forever. Spencer was kind enough to put out a casting call in one of the Facebook groups a couple of years ago, and that's how he and I got hooked up with doing our show. And because he had started it, I guess, and then the original host wasn't up to snuff, so he put out a casting call, and it was honestly like him and I were talking, like we talked for like an hour and a half, just going through this audition to be on the show. And thankfully, yeah, like me and then our other co-host Keith, we were holding the show down for 2 years, and then we just brought on our newest co-host Cody. And so we just hit 150 episodes on the podcast. So we've been doing that since 2021.
Yeah. So 2020, 2021, around that time. It was definitely during the pandemic times when I looked into getting the whole thing going. And so yeah, pretty much the goal was to try and cover all of Ninja Turtles. So we've made it through the 87 series. We've covered all of that. We've covered all of Volume 1 and 2 of the Mirage comics, as well as the Image era. Urban Legends is what it's been reprinted as at IDW. So we've made it through quite a bit of Ninja Turtles, talking about it. We hope to one day get all the way caught up on IDW so we can cover it as it comes out.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I guess much like Mike, you and I might be around the same age. I'm 34, so I started probably around that time. Started off with the TV show, of course. Probably in the last 5 years, I started catching up with the comics, and then I like gained a huge fascination. I already liked the shows, but like going into the Mirage and how dark it was, I was able to really indulge into being an adult and liking the Turtles a bit more. I've I like Mirage. I definitely like Mirage, but I've grown quite fond of the IDW series because I feel like it's a little more intricate of a storyline than what I'm accustomed to, especially with like Mutant Town, and I guess the way they did the Dragon Scale with Shredder kind of it kind of drew me in. And then just recently, last week, I got if you guys are familiar with the Body Count issue 1.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we covered that.
You did? Okay, so yeah. So I just recently read Body Count issue 1. So like I'm traveling time as well, going in and out of that. That I found that to be kind of fascinating. And then of course,
body count is just like is even its whole own thing, and how dark, like how I guess gritty that kind of gets. It's played in a very over the top fun way, but it's also very gory,
Yeah, like it's very much like unfiltered Kevin Eastman.
It's Kevin Eastman and dang near Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Kevin Eastman making the action movie he always envisioned for Casey Jones.
Yeah.
And it's wild. And I've talked about it on the show, like my experience with Mirage. Like the first issue I picked up, was back when I was think it was like 11, 12 years old, and it was the first issue of Soul's Winter, which I don't know if you've read that. That's part of the guest era of Mirage Volume 1, so it's not really canon to Mirage, like the Kevin and Peter stuff. And it's like this is like, pretty pre-internet, so I didn't know what I picked up. All I knew was that like this was not the Ninja Turtles I was used to, and it's just kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Because it's a wild issue, and so that kind of sparked my interest of going back, years later, to kind of figure out where it all came from. And Spencer thankfully gave me the opportunity on this show to really sit down and read Mirage and analyze it for the first time. Because everybody's read issue 1, but how many people have read past issue 4? And that's a thing we talk about a lot on our show.
Well,
but the big origin of how Body Count happened is that Kevin Eastman and Simon Bisley, the artist, were good friends, and they pretty much said, "What if we make a Ninja Turtles John Woo?" Like he showed Simon Bisley a whole ton of John Woo films, and so they're like, "What if we make a Ninja Turtles John Woo film, but a comic book about Casey and Raphael?" So that's kind of where you get that action pulpiness from.
I watched some other discussions, and apparently not everybody approved of the Body Count issue when it came out in 1996. And like it's imagery itself, and I mean Kevin Eastman and the other gentleman that you're talking about, they had that moved over to Image Comics.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was the art that made it do that, or was it the content being more mature itself? Because Image does kind of take that risk as well.
Yeah, I think it had more to do with that at the time Mirage Studios didn't really have an ongoing series going on, and so they just kind of had made a deal with Image that they could print the comic there and have their own writers and stuff kind of take over it. So I think it just kind of changed publishers for the time being.
Okay.
I know that during a period of time there was like a flood at Mirage Studios that they were dealing with.
I was just about to ask that too. I was just about to ask if that was during the flood.
It could have been. I know that Volume 2, it was around in the middle of Volume, no, not the middle, but close to the end of Volume 2 when that kind of happened. But like I said, I think it was just kind of the shifting of publishers. I think Mirage Studios may even have been losing money printing comics, and so they made a deal with Image, and Image picked him up. And
Peter's been pretty open about, especially when he was doing Volume 4, how much printing it on his own was really losing them money. And that's why like some issues of Volume 4 were only available in digital. So
there's one that was available from his website. The rest was like mail order.
But it's like super low print runs. So he's talked about it on his blog, like I said, where they were losing money on it. And a lot of people forget that like Ninja Turtles was like very much a small indie comic. Like they were basically doing everything in house, and there was like 4 people running it. Yeah, I mean it was just it's called Mirage Studios because like it was an illusion. Like it was 2 guys in an attic.
Like they're the independent. They're literally the epitome of like an overnight success off of one ad run, and $1,200 bought from their uncle. Like it's wild to look at like where we better than that, man.
Yeah, like it's wild to see like where it's come from, like where it was, and then what it is now. Yeah. So
okay, we can dive deep into this a little bit because I do want your opinions. So how do you guys feel about, do you think both Peter and Kevin were happy with making that deal with would that be Viacom, when they pretty much syndicated the Turtles and moved them on to like TV shows?
You mean like when Nick took over, or like when they made the original cartoon?
I think when they made the original cartoon with Fred Wolf Studios.
Yeah. So Wolf, do you feel like that Peter and Kevin kind of had some regrets with their baby? I mean, of course they enjoyed the money, but like, do you think both of them kind of bumped heads about some of the changes they had to make to their original characters?
I think that this is purely speculation. I don't know. I'm pretty. I don't like, I guess, going too hard on people that are still living and can kind of answer these questions themselves. But Peter definitely does seem to voice some regret when it comes to it, how much it affects the way people view Ninja Turtles, which was kind of his baby and his creation. I think it bothers him more than it does Kevin Eastman, because Kevin Eastman
Yeah,
hardly said a
I
word
think
about it.
yeah, I think Kevin enjoys it enough. Like when you look at the two, Kevin and Peter, they really do mirror Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, with Kevin kind of being more the Stan Lee, like being in, being the kind of the face of it, and really kind of, put anything in front of me, I'll sign it. I really enjoy just being part of this and showing off the turtles and like all of this stuff. Because he's vocal about how much he likes, new stuff all the time. Like he was vocal about how he liked Rise and Mutant Mayhem, like stuff people wouldn't think he would have been attached to, but he's like, I like it. Peter is a lot more reserved, and he very seldom gives interviews. He was, the only way to talk to him was on his blog for the longest time, and a lot of it is just because he didn't really, he's more sad that his vision was diluted, like Spencer said. Like he had a very specific idea for the kind of stories that he wanted to tell, and he got his chance to do that when he was doing volume 4 by himself, and then with episodes of the 2003 TV show, because that was pretty much all him.
Yeah, he
I
pretty
mean,
much steered
and
that
the people
at
at Four Kids,
least
but
up
it's
until
like,
the 6th season.
no, I think that Fast Forward was 100% Peter.
It might have been, like, I think he gave notes, but I don't think it was. I think that after the stories from the original Mirage comics, like up, through volume 1, were told that he was kind of. I think the show itself was kind of like, yeah, we can just kind of do whatever we want now.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm obviously joking, Spencer. And that's what we do on our show. We joke a lot, and sometimes Spencer falls for it a little too much.
When I went to C2E2 last spring, I had a little bit of a conversation with Kevin Eastman, and I was just kind of asking him about Peter, and like Peter's wants to be with his family, but he's kind of crossing his fingers with trying to do Peter-esque to see if he can motivate Peter. But then when I recently saw, I guess the last time Peter had made a video introducing the Last Ronin 2 series, he also took in new writers and new ideas too. And I don't know, we might see Peter, who knows? But I think Peter's kind of reserved.
Yeah, he's appeared in some interviews with a channel called Comics Kayfabe on YouTube recently. That's been fairly recently. So they've gone through those first few issues page by page with Kevin Eastman there for a lot of them. And they kind of discuss those original Mirage comics and things about them and details.
Yeah.
So he seems like he is pretty excited about things.
And with next year, 2024 being the 40th
What's up, Bono? We're doing a TMNT discussion.
It was a, hey, how's it going, dude? So with 2024 being the 40th anniversary of the franchise, like this is the perfect opportunity for kind of Peter to maybe step back into the ring, and we do get a final tale of the TMNT from Kevin and Peter, before Peter finally like fully retires. Because I mean, Peter's been unofficially retired for the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, in those interviews with Comics Kayfabe, he said that he wants to be that guy that always has a sketch pad with him again and is always drawing and doing things. So
yeah,
you never say never. I guess that's the big thing that we're getting at. Is
that room is going to pile up as well. So we'll see, when he does come, and then I mean, I guess that's an easy way to segue into the IDW series going to 150. And so I guess before I dive into the IDW series, do you guys have any visions on what's to come? I mean, do you think TMNT will have another series they're going to start, or is the focus going to be like on the Last Ronin 2 from this point on?
So this is something that we've talked about a lot on kind of in our bonus content. So the way our show works is like we have a very structured show about where we talk about our topic, but then we also record our kind of off the cuff discussion before the show and a little bit after the show, and we put it at the end. It's called our bonus content. And that's where we kind of dig into things that aren't related to the episode. And so we've talked about like kind of our plans for post 150. I'm on team no reboot. Like I think I think Spencer's on my team too, because he and I kind of agree on this. Like the Turtles is so used to rebooting this franchise that I think that because we have such a rich world with IDW, like I want to see them take this as far as they can, and I know there's a lot more gas in the tank.
Yeah, well, there's still lots of different things they can pull from different shows that were really great ideas and that are good things, like the Battle Nexus. Like they used that in an annual, but like the Battle Nexus in the 2003 series is a really cool idea, and that annual just didn't fully use it, but they could use that. There's lots of different concepts and things like that from different books that they could try and pull out and make more stuff with. It's possible that with all this time travel stuff that they're going to try and do maybe a soft reboot, mess with the timeline a little, see what happens to the Turtles. I think that it sounds like from everything that I've read so far, they still have plans for things post 150.
See,
I just don't think they.
Yeah, that's kind of what my vision is. I could possibly see with the time travel that they've been showing with Armagon and the split that they had. Was that 143 when they left the city and split?
Yeah, it's the end of 143.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah. So 143 when they did that split, I wouldn't mind seeing like everybody's story kind of excelling past there and like webbing away into its own thing, because it almost feels like, I mean, the separation of their core group. Everybody has their own personalities, whereas you got Venice and Donatello, you've got Mikey still in the city. You have episodes of that being a continuation. I think that would pique my interest. I'd still be locked in.
And that's and like that's the kind of stuff I want to see. And again, this is another thing we've talked about on our show. Like the Turtles, like the world is very rich, and we think this world can support kind of like a secondary title of just kind of exploring the world. We've talked about like the Nova Posse getting their own book, for example, kind of being the Guardians of the Galaxy of Turtles, and maybe, Leo hooks up with them for an arc or so. Kind of like Captain Marvel did, where she left Earth and Tony Stark left Earth and they joined the Guardians. It was back in the mid 2010s. And seeing the Turtles kind of grow up and split apart, like this is uncharted territory for this franchise. Like I said, it's so used to rebooting when it gets to a certain point that it's like we're telling new stories, and I want to see where this goes, because the last time we saw the Turtles, like in volume, the Mirage Turtles, there's a 15-year gap between volume 2 and volume 4. So it's like, what happened in that in between? And we have Tales of the TMNT to kind of fill that gap, but also in IDW we have the ongoing. We don't need a Tales of the TMNT to do that. We can just tell those stories, keep going. Now the flip side of that is you got new people who are like, oh, there's a TMNT comic book that's still going on. Where's Shredder and Krang?
Oh yeah.
And I get that. But that's the thing, is like Shredder and Krang are only really huge if you've watched the cartoons and the movies. But like if you've ever read Mirage, Krang's not there and Shredder dies in the first issue. So it's like they're not important. They've never really been that important to the comic book Turtles.
I mean, Shredder does come back for like one of the biggest arcs, as well as for Return to New York.
A clone of Shredder.
And yeah, a clone, but it's also kind of him. It's a way to bring him back.
But you know what I mean, though. Like
yeah. City of War is all about the fallout from that.
My preference of a villain is the Triceratons. Like
they're cool villains.
As far as they go with that, I mean, it'd be an immediate threat, and like everything that goes in there. I guess expanding onto the Ultrams as well beyond New York City. I like that. I'm already like into DC and Marvel, and like again, like I had said, the direction that IDW is going from here and just expanding their content, it's going to pique my interest. I don't know as far as you know the world's perception of how it's going to work out for them, but I'll be excited.
Yeah, no, I would too, because back from like issues 1 to 100 when Tom Waltz was on the book, there was a side series that was written by different guest writers and things called TMNT Universe. And that just told all sorts of stories about like different side characters or just smaller adventures for the Turtles that weren't a part of the main series. Like if they could bring that book back, that would be awesome. Like, because there's a lot of those side characters that are out doing things right now that I'd love to hear about. Members of the Mutanimals like Mondo Gecko and Seymour Guts who are out there,
and Pigeon Pete.
and Pigeon Pete.
Pigeon Pete.
Well, I mean, we know where Pigeon Pete is because he does appear in the issues that we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Remember, I would spoil it. He's in LA with Sari and Sally.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't call it. Well, I wouldn't worry about spoiling it at this point. I think if this issue is going to come out tomorrow. So, okay, the question I had was, what was the name of that pink bandana turtle?
Lita.
Lita. What's her origin?
So back when the mutant bomb went off, they created like all the mutants that are Mutant Town. She was mutated. She's like just a child, and the Turtles found her and kind of have adopted her. At a certain point, a Lita from the future shows up and tries to get Jenica to form a band so that the timeline won't become as dark in the future, won't become this dark, bad timeline. And you learn that Lita is an apprentice timstress to Renette, who is now like higher up in the ranks of the Time Lord people.
Because I'm trying not to spoil again. I didn't start till about issue 127 into the IDW series, and I'm seeing characters that I'm unfamiliar with, and I mean, hence why I reached out to you guys. I'm like, okay, I really want to. I'm trying to get the spark notes to this situation. I'm trying to get,
and that's
I'll get there.
And that's one of the cool things about IDW is because it is such a melting pot of references from all across every version of TMNT, especially with like Sophie being the main writer on the book for everything past 100. Like she's original Mirage crew, or I mean, she was on the Volume 4 Tales of the TMNT Volume 2 days. I mean, she worked for Mirage, like so a lot of the concepts and stuff that she is bringing to the book, it really does kind of feel like stuff that would have been in the original comic had that if that was still going on, or if she had done it back then. So it is kind of always fun to also see new characters pop up. Like Lita doesn't have a Mirage counterpart or really any other version. Like she's
the original one
to IDW.
So okay, we got. So yeah, I see. She's gonna be a familiar face to you guys. Definitely a new face for me to see. And another character I wanted to get a little information on was was that Bob?
Yeah,
Bob. So he comes from the Ninja Turtles Adventures comic books that were published by Archie.
Seriously, he was in Archie's?
Yep. Yeah, just at the very end, he just appears. He doesn't really do anything, but he's one of future Leonardo's students, because future Leonardo has a whole bunch of students that are learning martial arts from him. Carmen is one of those too, and it looks like there's a character they left out that I believe his name was Miles, that was another one of his students. So they just kind of have Bob and Carmen, who are this Leonardo students.
Miles kind of looks like Carter from the Red Sky seasons of the '87 cartoon.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, and who's the gigantic female bird?
So that's
Oh, Koya.
Koya. And Koya was one of Shredder's first mutants. Way back. God,
Do
I
you guys
forgot
know
how
how to
long
spell
ago
Koya?
Koya
I'm trying to
appeared.
get an image of Koya.
Yeah, she so her and there's a giant hammerhead shark named Bludgeon.
Okay,
And those two have been
how's
kind
Koya
of
spelled?
Koya. And God, she was all the way back in City Fall Part 4. So that's issue 25, way back 10 years ago in 2013. And
She hasn't
that
made an
was
appearance recently. I hate to
she
interrupt, but
oh no, go ahead.
so I mean, periodically into this road to 150, I don't remember seeing her that much.
So her and Bludgeon have been kind of sidelined since issue 100.
Okay,
When the Foot Clan kind of finally, fell apart after a lot of big spoilers in that issue. But they were really heavily tied in with the Foot Clan. So since post 100, Bludgeon and Koya kind of didn't have a purpose. Bludgeon is more of a pacifist and kind of a monkish character, and Koya is always really angry, and she's basically a version of Raphael, and she in the Armageddon game arc was when they finally kind of started coming back out, and Karai had recruited them for her team as part of the Armageddon game event. And I think right now she's not taking them with them as she goes off to kind of start her own new Foot Clan, which is going to be that book that's going to be coming out later next year.
Okay. And has her and Leonardo ever had a thing?
They've never had a thing like a romantic thing. It was more of like a big rivalry. Because I think isn't Leo responsible for her losing her feathers?
Yes. So way back in it's called like a gauntlet, pretty much the vengeance arc of the IDW series. The turtles fight in a gauntlet, and so they get put up against Koya and Bludgeon, and so Leo ends up chopping up her feathers on her wings so she can't fly anymore. So she kind of hates him for that. Plus, she already kind of seems to be a bit of a sadist. But it's suggested at post 100 when Lita comes from the future that Koya and Leonardo are together in the future.
Okay.
It hasn't like officially happened in any capacity yet, other than that.
Okay. So I mean, this is a bit of a bit of a review to lead up to what's to come. Just to make reference to people who will be interested in getting tomorrow's issue of 147. Okay. So, all right. I guess now I'll probably like to go and reference the 2023 annual issue that came out this year, and how the image that they show, well, basically how Raphael had traveled in time to warn the turtles about Donatello using magic and how it could ruin the existence of the turtles, period. And so we spoke on this earlier, but right now that we're live, how do you guys believe? Okay, I haven't seen any signs that from Raphael's appearance that his appearance in that issue is candid leading up to where we're at now, because it doesn't seem like they're taking much precaution with Donatello using these spells. It doesn't. Have you guys seen a concern that they've had of Donatello leading to their demise?
Yeah, they seem like they've kind of have ignored that future Raph and blamed it on something else. Part of that could just be because typically on annuals, it's a different writer that writes the annual than the main writer on the series. So, it could be that Sophie had already written her issues and never addressed that fully. But also, I just think that they probably just thought it was a crazy, weird thing that happened. And I guess, yeah, they haven't really listened to future Raphael.
Yeah, because it's weird because if you look at the chronology for IDW that's on Turtlepedia, because it's updated, all the way up to 147. The 2023 annual is not part of the chronology,
Wow.
so it's kind of up in the air if this is gonna be tied into that or if it's just kind of a cool one-off story like some of the other annuals have been.
Mm.
Like the Juniba one from a couple of years ago. That was kind of its own thing.
I do think that annual does tie into this though, because he's trying to warn him about Donatello creating Armicon by traveling to the past.
Yeah, so like
Most definitely.
it could be. And, I mean, and Turtlepedia, this isn't an official chronology or anything. It's just one of the most upkept ones. So it could be in there, and if they choose to reference it, and if that future raft does come back in some way, like obviously they'll add it to this list. But yeah, like you make a good point. Like it does feel kind of like it's not part of the story that they're trying to tell, but also kind of yes.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like it feels like a continuation, even though yet it is in annual. That's one of the confusions that I've had with this, because at the end of that issue, Donatello gets killed in the snow, with some Foot Clan arrows, and then try not to spoil this. I don't know if that same Raphael ties in to the future turtles that Donatello and Venus with it while they're traveling in time are these same turtles in that timeline.
So the last Ronin, are you talking about the last Ronin with Donatello dying by getting shot by arrows?
No,
because in the annual it shows
In the annual?
Donatello's
Oh,
death.
okay.
Oh, that was Donatello. I thought that was Raphael. That was hit with the
Raphael.
arrow.
I mean, sorry, I thought you
Yeah.
said Donatello.
Well,
If I did,
in Ronin they both were. Like Raph was the first one to die, and then but he was like full of arrows when him and Karai like fought. And then
I was referencing the annual. The way,
yeah, but you're referencing the annual.
I just got
and that was
confused.
Donatello that died in the snow, right?
Yeah. I thought it was Raphael that split
Oh,
apart.
my bad.
Raphael, remember Raphael traveling in time? He split apart from them because they said, "Hey, we're going to stop Donatello," and he was like, "All right, cool. I don't have to kill Donatello anymore." And then he like veered off by himself, and they just showed him getting ambushed by some foot soldiers. But, okay.
Yeah. No, so I get what you're talking about now. I got mixed up. I thought you said Donatello earlier. So yeah. I need to look at that annual again because it's been a little bit since I've read it.
Yeah.
I meant to go over it before now, but I'm a new father with a child that I'm trying to figure out how to help.
Yeah, Spencer, why didn't you do your homework?
I'm not holding. Well, first off, I'm not holding you that accountable. Obviously, I don't know that much either. But I did prep a little bit.
No, we like to joke. We like to joke on our show. Like I said, we're all buddies.
I got you.
Yeah, we give each other a hard time quite a bit.
Hell, most of our research is done when one of us will say something, and then it'll go off on a tangent, and we have to research it right there. So there's countless researching minutes that Spencer has to edit out every week.
Yeah, well, that's what I had told Spencer before we had started up. I was like, look, we're going to live stream it. I prefer to keep things raw. I prefer just to be raw and unfiltered, and we just bring our minds together. It just feels more organic. Anyway.
No, not good. That's good. That's why I was excited to do this when I saw you post about it on Facebook. I was like, yeah, no, hell yeah, we'll do it.
So do you guys? So all right, so we're about to have 147, and we're going to 150. So, do you think these next two issues, are we ever going to see what Mikey's going through in New York?
I hope so. I love seeing. I want to know what heck goes on with everyone. I think we probably will. I don't think they would just completely drop any of the turtles. I think that most of the focus will be on Donatello, but I think we'll get to see what each of the ones are doing.
Yeah, because I think Mikey kind of needs something to do now that the whole stuff with Dr. Barlow's done, and that was kind of his like moment in those five and from 140 to 145 was like getting him to come around and recognize that mutants are his people and he needs to use his platform for good. And then by the time he does that and he sees that like, hey, I could have been helping people, uh, and that I think that's going to kind of light a fire in him. And so when we do see him again, I really hope that's a thread that kind of continues. Um, but yeah, like Spencer said, I think Donatello is kind of the main focus right now, because I think Armagon is really what the whole like road to 150 event is going to be. Like, I think Armagon, for better or worse, is going to be the one that kind of sets our new status quo going forward.
About this, without spoiling too much, I have a lot of questions, especially afterwards. And if you guys don't cover it on you guys' stream, I'll probably be in you guys' inbox on Facebook probably Wednesday evening to have some questions, get some questions answered, or at least some opinions. Because again, are these holes into different dimensions that we're about to go into?
Yeah, right now, since we're messing, it seems like we're messing mostly with time. So I think we're definitely jumping timelines and probably creating branching timelines. How much of like whether that's like a multiverse or not, I guess, is debatable. But I think we're definitely heading into branching timeline stories.
Yeah, because as anybody who's watched Turtles Forever knows, there is a Turtles multiverse out there. So
yeah.
I like kind of like Spencer said, like the TMNT shenanigans that happen in IDW are more time shenanigans more than dimension hopping shenanigans, and that's kind of another problem is that the word dimension kind of has different meanings in Turtles. Like sometimes it's an entirely different universe, and sometimes it's just another solar system.
Yeah, well, there's dimension hopping because there's quite a bit of that with the Ghostbusters crossover and going to Dimension X. But
sorry, but I meant like I was talking about like there's not going to be a crossover with like 2012 Turtles or something.
Oh yeah, I mean
with the IDW Turtles,
there may be a crossover with Mirage one day. I think that would be kind of cool. There's a lot of multiverse stuff going on right now though, so I hope that we don't dig too far into that.
There's a high volume.
Yeah, multiverses are hot right now.
Yeah.
In kinder words, hopefully not.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess I like differing between. I know that like the MCU explains branching timelines as the multiverse, but I don't know. In a world more like DC's, they've got multiple Earths that are all like in different universes, but having different universes isn't the same thing as like having a different timeline for them, kind of thing. So I don't know if they're going to differentiate it at all, or if it's going to just be that different timelines is just a multiverse, or who knows.
That's the big question mark, and it insinuates, but it doesn't necessarily answer the question with 147 as to existence post death. That's going to be the big question mark to leading into this.
So, okay. I'm excited. I'm excited for the next two issues. Like I was reading through 140 to 145 last night. I was telling the guys, I was like, "This is great." I think Sophie's fire.
Were you like freshening up, or like you literally had just started like reading those?
So I hadn't read the comics since we finished our Armageddon game recap earlier this year.
Okay.
So I had 140 to 145 kind of like in my pile of comics because I buy all my comics monthly.
Okay.
And physically, so they're sitting in a stack. And when we were going to do the show, I was like, all right, now's the perfect time for me to kind of binge read them all. And uh, I'm glad I did, because like it was a good chunk of, kind of info dumps, and the whole Dr. Barlow stuff was really exciting. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know Spencer kind of has a different opinion
I
on
like
it.
I like the Dr. Barlow stuff. I just felt like the ending of all of it was super fast and anticlimactic. Like it just kind of like went boom, all in one issue.
And
It's
so
done.
and so I
You know?
and so I went into it knowing Spencer's opinion, and I feel the opposite.
Hmm.
I don't mind that it ended in a single issue, because kind of the whole issue was about it.
Yeah.
Like I think the payoff, I think it paid off pretty well. I think, and I think the fact that everybody was there, and kind of Venus, being the ace in the hole, uh, I really enjoyed it.
Did you want
So
a did you well basically you wanted a bigger like main boss battle fight with the Barlow Spencer? Is that kind of how you felt about it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been asking myself that question, like, what more did I want from it? Because there was a lot of cool stuff that came out of it, like Dirtbag and Ground Chuck being mashed together,
oh
and
god,
That
and those two
it
are my
was so
boys. So I was
gruesome.
like,
It was pretty graphic and gruesome. Yeah.
those two
yeah,
are my boys, and so seeing them kind of this like weird homunculus kind of thing really was like, oh my god.
yeah. So I found that cool, and I know a lot of the stuff with this dragon scale thing feels like it's referencing the terror bears from the RPG, which Sophie Campbell is a massive fan of, the Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness RPG game. And so that kind of I think that kind of comes from there, because they've got little symbols on their stomach, and like Care Bears do, and these characters that have been given the dragon scale have a symbol on their stomach. Um, and so it's kind of cool to see them pulling from that stuff. And it is interesting. Like I said, I'm trying to figure out what it is, but to me, it just kind of felt like it happened kind of anticlimactically. I don't know if it necessarily is maybe that our characters were like lacking a journey or learning something in it. Like it was just kind of a confrontation, and then boom, it ends after Dr. Barlow being in the background for so long now. Maybe
Mm.
that's what it really is I was expecting it to feel more massive and climactic, especially since Dr. Barlow has been in the background for about a two couple years now.
I guess writing
Well,
wise,
remember, it's a couple years for us, but only like a couple months for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, a couple months for them, and also we had all of Armageddon game kind of in the middle of it as
Yeah.
an event, and that prolonged it.
I
Um,
mean, I know they I guess the focus they really wanted to have was beyond the Dr. Barlow situation. And I mean, I understand. It was crammed pretty fast. I mean, especially with them like being in the sewers as long as they were. Um, I mean, like kind of leading up to this, some of the fights with. Okay, so instead, like some of the other creatures that they fought before they got to Dr. Barlow, would you have preferred that fight got washed away or got rid of, and then a more intricate battle or fight scene with Dr. Barlow? Would that kind of
I,
suffice?
Probably something like that, yeah, or him having someone else there in between the two of them that would fight by proxy, because Dr. Barlow isn't a fighter, he's a
Mm.
scientist. But I don't know, like you have books like Return to New York from like the Mirage comic days, where the entire store, like the entire three issues that make up Return to New York, are about the turtles infiltrating the foot base, getting in, working their way up the levels of the building until Leonardo eventually faces off with Shredder on the roof. And there's just different elements they use in pacing and things like that, with having big splash pages and other things that build up the suspense and feel really epic with its panel to panel storytelling that just isn't quite there in this story. And I guess that's kind of where I feel like it just didn't feel very climactic, because it didn't while it's been building to this moment technically from the beginning, like the action itself didn't build, or like the pacing of the storytelling didn't create the suspense and the big finality and satisfaction of Face Off to me.
I, I don't have much of it. I don't disagree with you too much with that, but I don't know. I guess I wasn't as like I didn't. Those weren't my intentions. Like
Mhm.
to me, I was just fascinated with Donatello and this dragon scale because prior, I'm not familiar with the dragon scale. That's the next question I was going to ask you guys. Like with the dragon scale and its capabilities going through the IDW series, is it just more? Is has it recently became like a magic or a power? Because with Shredder, it didn't seem like Shredder had abilities. It seemed like it was just an entity talking to him.
Yeah, so this is pretty much like the whole overarching plot from issues 1 to 100 is that Shredder was being essentially groomed by a sort of like demigod character, a member of a pantheon called Kitsune, to be the host of her father, which was like is a destroyer god, a dragon. And so she's been prepping him this whole time to be able to receive him and become like the host for this god. Um,
Mhm.
at the end of City at War, her plan fails, and like the partially constructed dragon, falls and dies, but his scales are spread out, and so people are able to find them and start tapping into their power post 100, and so that's what Barlow's experimenting with.
So they're kind of like powered up, you know. Think of it. I don't know if you've ever played the Sonic Adventure games, but you have the Chaos Emeralds and then you have the fake Chaos Emeralds. The fake
Okay.
Chaos Emeralds still have power; they're just not fully powered. And that's kind of what the dragon scales are. So like they're legit power sources, but they're not like fully powered, and that's kind of why they don't have as much or like Shredder didn't have like full power when he was being groomed, but now there's just all these scattered like little bits of the dragon, like the demigod, the dragon, scattered about. And that's what Barlow's messing around with and attaching to people and himself. And um, I guess my fake Chaos Emeralds analogy didn't work.
Well, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. So it's like basically, I mean, long story short, it's like you're telling me Shredder never saw the full potential of what the dragon scale could become, and then whereas we are now, I don't know.
Yeah, like nobody's seen the full potential of the dragon scale. So like a lot of of the dragon powers, and so the dragon scales are just little bits of that power,
Hmm.
and that's all kind of new to post 100. So that wasn't in the pre 100 stuff. Because that's what gives Venus all her powers, because she's got like a full dragon scale in her back, in her shell, whereas like everybody else has pieces and slivers of it, because like Dr. Barlow's being real cautious with how much, because he only has so much left. And Venus is named Venus because she was supposed to be his perfect experiment.
The Frankenstein, as you will call it,
Yeah,
of this.
yeah. The back when she was Franken Venus.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't know. IDW might be my favorite series. I mean, what do you guys have a preference or matter of fact? Or can you guys hear me? It might be my connection.
I
Can't
can
hear you.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I forgot to ask you guys who you guys' favorite turtle. I guess I'm having problems again.
Uh, Spencer can't hear you.
Okay. Spence. Maybe.
Well,
Yes.
while you guys do that, the older I get, the more I like Donatello.
you go to if you click your settings, maybe your audio and video somehow change. Issues as well. Having connection. Okay, now I'm good. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So.
Okay,
Mike,
there we go.
Okay, Mike, you said
I was accidentally on mute. I don't know how long I was on mute for.
Oh, not that long. Not that long.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying the older I get, the more I like Donatello.
Mm-hmm.
I especially in IDW, I really love what they've done with him and kind of all the traumatic stuff he's gone through. You know, watching him kind of go from like not believing into things to like fully kind of accepting it to now kind of going crazy with some of the stuff that only he's really seen. I mean, him and Venus, but like, and then the reveal at the end of 145 where he created Armagon, like that, and just watching him kind of go crazy from that is really what I want to see play out.
My favorite is definitely Michelangelo.
Is it good old Michelangelo?
Yeah, but with IDW, it really because with IDW, I was kind of a fan of all the turtles in a way because they all get to shine. But in Michelangelo's Macro series issue, where he faces off against Splinter to try and protect these orphans from being forced conscripts into the Foot Clan, for me, he shines a whole ton in that issue, and it just made him my favorite. Like issue 50 to 100 makes Michelangelo just an awesome character that I
haven't
love.
read 50 to 100. I'm trying to get a hold of issue 51, first appearance of Jenica. For a decent
That's
price.
gonna be rough now.
I had an individual that was just gonna hand it to me. I'm twisting their wrist to get it.
You're going back and collecting the individual floppy issues.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty much physical. Right now, I'm trying to get a hold of first appearances. I'm gonna get Shredder in Hell. That'll probably be the next series I'm gonna try.
I just went back and finally, because I was missing like 2 issues from that because I had changed comic book stores.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally went back and I finally got the issues I was missing. Yeah, that was part of what I love about IDW was that this was because it started in 2011. So I was like, this is the first Ninja Turtles comic book series that's starting while I have like, you know, disposable income and I can follow it on my own. And so, you know, I've been collecting it every issue for 12 years. So I'm not going to stop anytime soon. Like it's, you know, even if it takes me a couple months to go back and read these floppy issues, like I still love picking them up every month because like, you know, I'm supporting this book that I love. And then I'll go back when the trade comes out a couple months later, I buy that when I want to reread it. So like I'm dumb and I started buying the trades back when they were, you know, because the trade paperbacks only have like 5 issues in it. This was before they started doing the IDW collections. And so the IDW collections, you know, that has everything in reading order, which is perfect. But I'm also 19 trade paperbacks in, and I'm not going to shift now.
Yeah. I'm trying to go issue for issue and go through. They got some good. I guess you call them ebook read-alongs on YouTube if you just want to catch up with the story. But I physically need to have them in my hand as well, part of my collection.
There's
I have the
channel
omnibuses.
they're doing live readings.
Is it like Team? It might be called like Team 4-Star.
No, I mean no, it's not 4-Star doing.
No, it's not 4-Star.
TMNT.
No, because they're the ones that do the Dragon Ball Z abridged, right? Isn't that those guys. Yeah.
I've got well on my channel, I think it's Teddy Gaming. He's got voiceover. He does voiceovers. There's another one, just some other issues. Because in the mornings, I went through the whole. Somebody did a good read along with sound effects and actual voice acting.
Yeah.
I had that on YouTube. I had the whole Mirage Volume 1 freaking done. I had that up as well on my channel.
Yeah, because I saw one that was like for like it's pretty recent, but like I mean, just googling it real quick, there's like 5 different ones or 5 different playlists. So, I'm not. I feel bad not knowing. Oh, Star Force Media.
Star Force
That's what it is.
Media.
That's it. Yep, that's them. That's who I use. That's who I've been using.
So like I've
Yeah.
seen it, but I haven't like sat down to like listen to these. But I mean, just the endeavor is really cool.
Yeah. I'm a really big fan of IDW's collected books, those big collected editions they have.
They're
Those are
beautiful.
what I collect.
Oh,
yeah.
Like the new one that's going to be coming out soon with Baxter Stockman on it,
Mm-hmm.
and just like the Terminator eye, but it's like a mouser. That's so good.
Yeah, they're super cool, and they just make it so easy to read, especially if you're like trying to get caught up, because it's got everything in order.
And what's great is that those are the versions that you can get on Comixology as part of your Comixology Unlimited account. You can get the IDW collection, and you can read everything in order.
Oh, and Jade, you never told us which one's your favorite turtle.
Oh yeah.
Raph.
Raph?
I've got 3 Raphael tattoos. Like I'm a Raph.
Nice.
For sure. And then Donatello just became my second favorite turtle just because of this storyline itself. So I got me a Donatello tattoo like a couple months ago. Yeah. That's my guy. And man, I know she was like conception wise, like everybody cringed at Jenica, but I'm starting to kind of fall in favor of being a Jenica fan.
Yeah, I really liked it, especially conceptually from the get-go. Like it's very much like a homage to like the She-Hulk origin of getting like a blood transfusion from, this mutant character, and that mutates you. I'm down for it. It just depends on the delivery of the character from here on out.
And we interviewed Tom Waltz a couple of years ago on our show, and this was God. What was it? It was just after 100. When we interviewed him, and we were talking, and he went into like kind of the creation of Jenica and how it was kind of, him and Kevin Eastman and Sophie, like it was all 3 of them creating this character. So it's, a lot of the common criticism of Jenica is that she's like Sophie's self-insert, and it's like, no, like she took the design from an OC that she'd created, but Jenica, the character, is not like a Sophie creation.
I mean, even
like not 100%.
Even her OC though is like it just also uses the color yellow.
Yeah, that's really the only similarity.
Common. Yeah.
It didn't seem so forced, and not to mention, like in her human form, she was a formidable martial artist, and so like as far as like just trying to want to just throw in a female turtle, I feel like some time was being taken, and there was some development. If it were to happen,
Yeah, well, she became Splinter's Chunin while she was human, and he was like became like a father figure to her. Mm-hmm. So it's not a leap to make her, a part of the family. I do think that some things could have been executed.
If Tom had said if that was always the plan for her.
I think that they did. I mean, definitely they just wanted to add a girl turtle. Like he did say that. Lots of girls at comic book conventions would ask him when there was going to be a girl turtle.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to do that, and Jenica just kind of fell into place as the character that would work that way. And so they wanted to bring her in and make her a turtle in the most organic possible way in the story. And I think they succeeded at that.
Yeah, I definitely think it was executed. Some of the other, I guess, plans that they had, I think I saw a rumor, I think it was from the Turtle Den channel referencing that in one of the movies they were just going to throw a female turtle in one of the live action movies to to be the fourth live action film that they were thinking about doing.
So
I don't think
so that's kind of based on an old concept, and I think you can find pictures of it on you can find pictures of it on Turtlepedia and like Peter Laird's blog. But there was going to be a fourth live action movie called like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation. And so Kevin had designed a fifth turtle named Kirby. Whether that was going to be the name in the movie or not, just Kirby is the name that's on the design sheet, and he's wearing a pink mask. He kind of looks like Slash, and then he's got like the Triceraton like knife that that has like the spiked handguard that he loves drawing. And so it's a totally edgy 90s design, and all the turtles were going to have these secondary mutations, and Splinter was going to have this secondary mutation. Obviously, the movie never got off the ground, which is kind of funny because we just finished our recap of the Next Mutation TV show, and a lot of the concepts, or some of the concepts from that movie, wound up in this show. So for as much hate as like that live action TV show gets, it's got a lot in common with the Mirage like kind of tone and elements of it. It's not a good show by any stretch of the imagination. And Venus is not the worst part of that show, as a lot of people like to say. Venus is honestly the best part of the Next Mutation TV show. But there's concepts in it and characters that really do feel like they belong in the Mirage comic.
It feels like the very basic ideas of the characters could be in the Mirage comic books, but between whatever that concept that they developed was and what was written and placed on screen, it's lost.
Yes, because like the Kirby concept wound up being changed into Venus because of Saban, the people behind Power Rangers. They were producing this show for Fox Kids, and they mandated that there had to be a girl on the team. They had to mimic the Power Ranger style. So Kirby was kind of effectively turned into Venus. They're not the same character by any stretch, but like he got replaced for Venus.
I know Peter probably was. I mean, even though he already had a concept, he strikes me as a person that doesn't like these changes and trying to have control over his baby.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the dark era for TMNT for him. Peter is very vocal about how much he does not like Venus, like to the point where it was rumored on the 2003 cartoon you were not allowed to joke about Venus at all.
I mean, they did a good job with him with her in IDW. I will at least say that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like her issue, the issue 4 of the Alliance for the Armageddon crossover, which is a lot of what the Donatello story arc is picking up from. Like pretty much the Donatello story arc that we're talking about picks up almost exclusively from the Alliance number 4. That issue is like Venus's best one. I mean, that's because it's where she does the most since she's been reintroduced to this universe. But it's an amazing issue. Like hands down, it's one of my favorite issues in years from this book.
I was trying to get my friends. Well, my friends aren't as big of shell heads as we are, and I was trying to tell them because they still think we're excited about Cowabunga Dude and pizza. I'm just like, look, there's some stuff in here, as much as the other content you guys have, and I really was trying to get them involved during the Armageddon times.
Yeah, I think honestly, it is worth it to go back and read those like IDW from the beginning and like read from issue 1 to now. It's a lot of issues, but it's so good that you just fly right through it. It's like I don't know. I flew right through every single one of those collected volumes that I got in no time at all.
a lot of it benefits now from being able to read it all in one sitting, you know, because some of these issues, because I'll admit, like I fell off back, you know, in the mid 70s, um, for those issues. So I missed like the Triceraton war and the trial of Krang. Um, like I missed those arcs, and then I came back towards the end for City at War and the mutagen bomb, and being able to sit down and read all of that in uh, the collected versions makes it so much easier. And that's kind of been one of the big complaints for um, the early Sophie run, the post 100 stuff, you know, because a lot of those issues were coming out, you know, during the pandemic. So those issues were already coming out a lot slower. And yeah, Sophie was focusing on this more slice of life stuff. And so that made it feel even slower. And being able to read all of these in one kind of real thing, get through them quick, I think it really benefits people to kind of read it now.
Yeah, I agree. So in the Mirage comics, did 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 was it Bebop or Rocksteady? No. In the last Ronin series, was it Bebop or Rocksteady that killed Donatello?
No, so that's IDW. So he doesn't stay dead in IDW, of course, because you see him alive now.
I guess what I was trying to reference was in the IDW series, the first time that they had interaction with Donatello in the IDW series, he almost killed Donatello. And then I thought it was kind of cool how in the last Ronin series, he finally got a hold of the turtle that he had almost killed the first time. And I didn't want to know if you guys how'd you guys feel when you guys saw that?
I don't think Bebop and Rocksteady were
Yeah,
in
no,
the
Bebop
last
and Rocksteady
Ronin.
weren't in Ronin.
Hold on. So okay then. So who? How did Donatello die? I thought one of them killed him.
So no,
So
in Ronin, Donatello and Splinter die fighting the Foot Clan because they go to Japan and team up with the rest of the Hamato clan,
Oh my god!
and they have like a big fight in the snow, and that's where those two die. Which is why earlier when you were talking about like dying in the snow, Spencer and I were like, "Oh, are you talking about Ronin?" The
See,
Bebop and
I don't
Rocksteady
own those.
killing
I only read
Donatello.
comics. I only read comics that I own.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool.
So I don't own that first series of the last Ronin. People kind of filled me in on that. So you guys helped
No,
me out.
it's worth the read.
Mhm.
You know, and as the social guy over at IDW, Greg, always talks about, like it's constantly on bestsellers list, and like
I've
Ronin
got the
is
novel
going to be the
upstairs.
face.
I want each individual issue. I've got a book. Kevin Eastman signed my last Ronin book. I might have to do.
Nice.
Sweet.
I have all 5 of the first prints like right here on my shelf. They're too big for like bags and boards for single issues. Like you have to get like the magazine style ones. But I was like, I'm just gonna sandwich these between my trades.
Have you looked at the price of the originals?
I do, yeah. So
How much is it now?
That's the thing is like I love these. I love these
Ungraded,
books.
ungraded. I've seen the lowest I've seen is about like $70 an issue.
Yeah.
The
So
low, on the
mine
low
mine will
end.
definitely be because I've read it a few times. My fingerprints are all over it because we talked about it on the show. So it's like I'm analyzing these books. So I mean, mine'll probably be an 8. You know, I mean, it doesn't have like bent corners or anything, but you know, the fingerprints alone will probably bring it down.
Yeah, I mean, mine have fingerprints too, and you know, because I've looked through them and read them, but I've got first printing of every single issue of.
Yeah, and I got the director's cut of the first issue. Like,
I've got lost years. I just don't have that first set, and I'm thinking about probably in the spring. I might just have to swipe my card. Print because they just first deal.
Hmm. Yeah, they did. They have been reprinting it to lead up to Re-Evolution that's coming out
Yeah, so Re-Evolution is going to be
February.
Last Ronin, like the next. Tom had told me because I talked to him at San Diego Comic-Con that Last Ronin is kind of a trilogy. So Lost Years is more of like, if you think of it in Star Wars terms, Lost Years is like Rogue One. So it's not a part of the trilogy, but it sets it up.
Okay.
The real trilogy is The Last Ronin, the first one, the Re-Evolution, and then a third one after that.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So the Donatello being killed by Bebop and Rocksteady happened in IDW. So he pretty much gets killed by them, and then with some like quick thinking and stuff, they transfer his soul essentially into Metalhead for a little while Fugitoid works on his body and helps him be able to come back to life. Helps it repair itself.
Yeah.
That answers my question when I was watching that video, because they were calling that Metalhead Donatello, and it was just like I did.
Yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago, I read those issues. I guess I just didn't remember that Donatello died.
Yeah, it's actually super cool because later on, Metalhead pretty much like there's some of Donatello's consciousness like is still like saved up in backup memory files in Metalhead. And so then it takes over and it becomes like Donatello in the past, and he goes insane seeing like normal Donatello with his body and becomes a villain. It's a really cool story. It's really interesting.
Yeah, because and that kind of sets up like you see a lot of that in the side book TMNT universe. And there's a fantastic cover by Freddie Williams where like he's pulling like the skin off, and it's like Donatello's face. He's like pulling his skin off his face, and it's Metalhead underneath. It's a fantastic cover.
Sounds like a tattoo. I might want to.
I think you would like that. It's pretty sick. I forget what issue it is, but it's TMNT Universe.
Okay.
But and that's the cool thing about like this IDW book is like, they took the risks with that, and this is another thing that Tom talked about in our interview with him. Like they were so nervous about it because the 2012 cartoon was going on at the same time, and that was kind of the face of the franchise. And so you have like comic book websites, picking up that, oh, they killed Donatello, and then you have parents that are like, they killed the Ninja Turtle, and then like you have to like, they're like, no, in the comics. And it's like the comics that your children shouldn't be reading because it's not really for them. But I mean, he gets better like 5 issues later. So, but I remember it was spoiled for me that had happened to him. And then also my comic book store at the time, because I've changed comic book stores like 5 different times since I started collecting this book. My comic book store at the time gave away my issue. So I couldn't even get an issue 44 when this happened. And then I was so mad. That's one of the reasons why they're not my comic book store anymore.
Do you have a lot of comic book stores like in a decent radius?
Yeah, so I live in Southern California, so there are a lot of comic book stores kind of between LA County and Orange County. So
I'm in Indiana, so everything's like 15 minutes away from each other.
Like, yeah, that is for me too.
I feel kind of blessed because like everything is around me. I got so many options. So around me, I think there are at least 6 different comic book stores I can name off the top of my head.
About the same for you.
So,
I'm really surprised, but I mean, Indy doesn't have as much going on as you guys do on the West Coast. So trading card games and nerdom, they take very serious in Dungeons and Dragons here. I mean, we host Gen Con here, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to go to Gen Con, especially now that the TMNT tabletop RPG like just getting reprinted next year. Like that's gonna be wild at Gen Con.
Gen Con's a good time. it's a real good time, and especially like since the Super Bowl that was here some years ago, and the All Star coming here this winter, NBA All Star coming here this winter, they've been really trying to build it up so they can entertain more tourists to come to Indiana. So we're stepping it up a little bit.
There you go.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wrap up and be getting off. I'm at my cap for the time I'm able to spend.
You gave me an extra 15 minutes, so I appreciate you guys. You know, I'll definitely be in touch with you guys Wednesday to ask you guys some more questions.
Yeah,
this
I'm
is-
typically a month behind on the comic because I read them digitally since I also collect the physical books. And if I wait a month, the issues are half price to buy them digitally. So I won't be caught up on that one till next month. But any questions you have about previous characters, I'll be happy to answer.
Will do. About to say, I got you. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Spence.
That's been a
Yeah, no
blast,
problem.
man.
Be in touch with you.
Be in touch.
Be in touch.